Oh, it's 12 o'clock. Hi, guys. Well, I thought it was 12 o'clock, so I just thought the show was coming to an end. I didn't realise, we didn't actually invite everybody onto the show who requested to come onto the show. But with everything that's been said so far, it just seems like this is just an ongoing problem. Because I even remember my dad even talking about his challenges in the workplace and him coming over from Jamaica and experiencing racism the way he had done. It was just stories that I remember him talking about, but not realizing that I would have to also encounter those things myself, and I just think it's so imperative that we have these conversations with our children, with our young people. They need to understand what is ahead of them. Not saying that how we are not going to see changes, but the truth be told,
I think we will see change.
But
I just
until
think
then, we still need to have these conversations. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely, we do. But and the conversation is honestly, the ripple effect has been enormous. Like the webinar that I had earlier, there were over 100 people on that webinar from all walks of life. So everybody is interested and is at least interested to talk and have the conversation. There was so much interest in that conversation. I mean, the question I would ask you is, when would you say you first experienced racism in your life?
When I was a kid, I remember playing,
How old?
I think I must have been about, I think I was about 10. I remember it was in White City. Was it in White City? It was in White City area, and there was a group of girls. I can't remember how the story, but I can kind of remember bits and bobs of it. But we was on bikes. Was I in White City or was I in Chester? It was somewhere, and I remember I was with these white girls, and they were just, the way they were dealing with me, it was almost like they were taking the mick out of me. They were taking the mick out of me. They were taking the piss out of me, basically on how I look.
Saying what?
Do you know what I mean? I can't remember exactly what they said, if I'm going to be completely honest. But I just remember there was an incident where they were making names at me, calling me names. What those names were, I cannot remember exactly. If I was to say they said this and that, I would be lying. But I just remember that experience, and I felt uncomfortable. I felt a way about myself. I felt that there was something wrong with me. Do you understand what I'm saying? And from then, I didn't really experience anything like that afterwards, because then, being in a London area, a lot of my challenges were as well with my own black people, if I'm going to be honest. I was bullied when I was in school as well, so...
But it wasn't based on the colour of your skin.
It wasn't based upon the colour of my skin, but I was just going through those issues with, girls and things like that. But it was more, I was starting to more experience racism is when I started working.
Right.
That's when I started to experience things, you know what I mean? It was more, it's just, there wasn't a name for it, but you can just sense certain things, or just the way you were spoken to, or just being handled. It will be different from saying like a white person, and things like that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So, it wasn't really... It was more like that, do you know what I mean? But then as I started to go into certain areas of work where I started to get more like a senior kind of position, that's when it was just that, okay.
So it became more and more pronounced.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
And it was blatant in a way that I remember even speaking to the HR, our HR officer, and she was saying to me, just don't let that girl become the boss of you. Do you know what I mean? Don't let that white girl become the boss of you.
So was your HR person black?
She was black. Okay. She was Nigerian, and she knew the game. She was basically trying to teach me, but I was so, when you just, I'm raggo, but at the same time sensitive. So when I say raggo, I'm just like, I can't hold it in, and like I'm just like, I'm about my emotions. I'm gonna express how I feel. I did cry. Do you know what I mean? I did cry because I just didn't understand why I was dealt with in this way. Why is this woman treating me in this way? what, because she's white and I'm black and she wants me out. And it was just a horrible experience. And even when I go back to when I was in Budapest and I was doing that modelling gig and everything else, I didn't understand that even still, because I didn't even know that the industry was even like that, you know, because obviously when you're seeing people do modelling work and things like that, and this is the thing, people don't talk. It's only like now people are starting to talk about things. But when you're seeing people in their industry, like you're seeing like the Naomi Campbell and all these kind of people, they're not talking about what they're going through. You understand what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It's only now that they would start having this conversation. But these are things that we need to educate each other and just speak, call it out, say how it is.
I think it has been spoken about. I've seen Naomi talk about it before. She has spoken about it. Maybe not prolifically, but I definitely have seen her talk about it, and I've seen her 100% call it out on her show. I can't remember what her show is called, but with some girl who made a particularly racist statement, she's called it out. I mean, from my experience, the first experience I had of racism was when I was about 8 years old in primary school. It was myself and my brother. My brother would have been about 6. And it was a parent who came down to the school. Now, my brother had a fight with another boy in his year. You know, as boys do, they had a fight in the playground. And this parent came down and she told both my brother and I, we were waiting for my mum to come and pick us up from school. And she told both my brother and I that she would beat us CUNTs into the ground. That's the first time I experienced it. Now, did I know what racism was before that experience happened? Actually, I have to say that yes, I did. So I knew what racism was about, and that's at 8 years old. So I mean, it's just been a part of our lives right the way through. But we could talk for hours on it. We've got a few comments. Hannah has said, it's true, Kaz. She had her 11-year-old listen to our show with us both earlier this evening, because it's important for youngsters to hear our experiences and be prepared. Mr. Fox said, as a white person in the workplace, what can we do to stand up? He had no idea that these attitudes were so normalised, and it's heartbreaking. And then Karen has answered and said, white people can support and stand shoulder to shoulder with us. I think the important thing is being an ally, but being an active ally. Don't wait till you come out of the meeting to say, oh, they shouldn't have spoken to you like that.
Speak up in the meeting.
Speak up in the meeting.
Absolutely.
Frank Lambs has said, can we talk about black females at work who, as people pleasers, would damage other black female workers in order to satisfy a toxic white colleague? How many times have you come against that? Because I know I have. It happens so much. Look, for those of you that are watching, we're happy and we're really glad that you're sharing your thoughts and your feelings. And for those of you that have stayed with us, we would love to hear some of your views. I know it's late, but we would love to hear just some experiences from you guys. If anybody's out there who wants to come on the live, please let us know. Because we'd love to hear from you. We really would. I'm just wondering why we can't see these people at the bottom. Why can't we see the... You know, you usually have all of the options. Do we need to press one of these buttons? Well, all right, we're back.
Whoop, and we got it.
And we got it now. Yes. So, please, if there's anybody out there who just wants to share their experience, it doesn't have to be long, but I think the more that we talk is the better that it is. You know, the more that people can identify with our experiences. Hannah said, oh my God, daily. Yes, daily. Daily these things happen. Every single day you leave your house, you have to put on your armour because you have to be prepared. I mean, we're going through a whole process at work at the moment where my organisation has been reactionary because people have called them out in terms of the fact that there hasn't been much action in the wake of what's happened to George Floyd. And now things are starting to change and the ripple effects are really being felt. But it's still going to be an uphill struggle. They're at least listening, open to hearing, open to changing. I think that they're like I was saying to you before, for some there is the authentic desire to change, and for some organisations they'll feel the pressure to change. But whatever it is, change is coming.
Yeah, and that's the main thing. I mean, what's sad, because even like I've got one of my good friends and she's been going through this whole racism within the workplace, and you know, it saddens me because the last time I saw my friend and she just didn't look well. Do you know what I mean? Like, because of the stress from just being dealt with so unfairly that it's actually having an impact on her health. And it breaks my heart to know that there's nothing I can do for her. Do you know what I'm saying? I remember even when my mum was going through a level of racism in her workplace as well, and I was so angry, and I was writing that email, and it was just on behalf of my mum, and it just really made me angry, because I'm thinking, what the do these people think they are, dealing with people of colour in this way and getting away with it?
But they've been getting away with it, and that's why who do they think they are? I'll answer. They think they're more superior to us, whether consciously or unconsciously, and therefore they can treat us like that because they've been so used to treating us like that, and we've been so used to accepting the treatment, and the cycle just goes on and on and on. And it's taken a brutal killing of a man for us to now start to say, you know what? Enough is enough. Frank Lambs, I see your comments. Oh, okay, we'll request you now. We'd love for you to come on. You've been a great supporter of the show, and we'd love to hear from you. So we're just going to invite Françoise, I think is your name, but comes on to talk about the experience that you raised about black males and how they can overcompensate against you.
Hello,
how are you?
ladies? I'm good, thank you. And yourself?
Very well, thank you. I love the French. I can hear the French accent, so you know I'm loving it. Where actually are you from?
I come from France. I was born and raised in France for 24 years, and then I came to live in the UK, and that's been nearly 20 years that I'm living here, and I kept my strong French accent.
Oh wow, mais c'est très joli.
Merci.
Beautiful. So tell us about your experience.
Well, last year, I quit 2 jobs. One of them, I resigned after raising a grievance, and the experience was very damaging. I can still feel the effects until now. I was working for a school as a finance officer. I won't name the academy, but it was an academy, and they are really targeting making as much money as possible. So we only have like 1 staff when we could have 2 or 3. So I was overworked and underpaid like most people. And as I was working, I was always waiting for one member of staff to actually decide that she would pull her weight and do her things. And that was very time consuming for me because I had to chase her all the time. So the frustration was building up. And I'd noticed that she was not really fair in terms of treating students. And I was feeling bad because some of the students were entitled to fundings, and they weren't getting it because this lady didn't want them to have it. And I think she was motivated by racial discrimination. She was a white lady. And my line manager was an accountant who was coming to see me once a week, and she was always trying to defend her. And so it really got on my nerves when I tried to explain it. Obviously, I could demonstrate how angry I was. And the line manager didn't really like it. She didn't like me to complain and make providing precise details about the things that I was assessing in terms of having that staff member not willing to assist students who are in need, or to making sometimes racial remarks that were not appropriate. So she was like, oh, well, you can't talk like that, etc., etc. And I was like, well, I'm a finance officer, and she's the she's the accountant for the school. Our aim is to actually make sure that the school is managing their finances properly, and we know but schools don't always manage their finances properly. It's difficult. There are restrictions from the government, but there are also funds that shouldn't be spent in certain area and that could be spent elsewhere. So she Eventually, I've reported some some other incidents to one of our colleagues who was actually our line manager, but had worked with him prior. It was a white man, but it was really fair. And so he said that he was going to look into it. And obviously, she eventually found out that I complained. So she started giving me a hard time for that. And then I just thought, well, she can't carry on treating me like that. I'm gonna report it to I'm gonna report her to the the head teacher, who was a new head teacher. She had just transitioned. And when I've reported her, I've also said, well, when she comes here, she only comes for a few hours, and she spent all time gossiping, but yet she wants to criticize me for not doing enough of my work, when actually I was paid to work less than 40 hours a week, and I was working often 50 hours a week or more. I used to go back on Sundays just to make sure that things will add up, so I would have less to do in the following week. So I found it quite disrespectful. I don't think we should be disgracing staff member like that, but yeah, that was our choice to actually defend that white lady at all time. And eventually I got fed up. I raised a grievance, and I built up so much evidences by email that she was responding to me in a rude manner, that sometimes I had to wait months for response, etc., etc. And I built up a file of 180 pages, and I sent it. Yeah, all the emails were printed. But you can imagine when you get to, yeah, you can imagine when you get to that state, and you're like, you just want to be so thorough into your grievance. Your anger is, you can't measure it anymore.
Yeah.
So
it just sound well. It's such a common experience, but thankfully you gathered that evidence. But in gathering 180 pages of evidence, that must have taken a massive toll on you physically, mentally, emotionally.
Yeah, it did, yeah, because I had to have a deadline. I had to have a deadline, because at some point she really wasn't accepting the fact that I wasn't gonna get bullied. I was just not gonna get bullied. So she prepared a performance review. And when she prepared that performance review, at the same time, I was getting headhunted by an agency to work for another school, but obviously it was going to take some time. And so I raised my grievance. I thought, I'm not going to, I want someone to know what she's doing and what is going on within this school, because it's affecting a lot of areas. It's not only me, it's affecting a lot of areas. But our purpose when we work as staff member is to deliver for children who come to that school. Mm-hmm. Because you don't want children to come to school and be angry because they can't pay for their travel, or they need a new pair of shoes, or they need this, or they need that. If it's their bursary, let them have it.
Of course.
So you have to be ethical when you work. So I thought, here, I see nothing that is being ethical, yet I have to work 50 hours or more in order to not getting the overwhelmed the following week. Otherwise, things will not get done. Wow, so I sent all of that to the head office, and then one day she tried to be a bit too funny with me, and I said to her, I said, look, I said, we've got that performance meeting with the head teacher shortly. I literally just showed her my hand, and I said, okay, leave it for later. We'll talk about that during the meeting. And I literally told her, look, you're asking me to file a folder that has no importance whatsoever. And you asked me that within 2 hours, you expect me to drop everything and do it when there are other things that needs to be done. So literally, I told her off in front of the headmaster. The headmaster was laughing, because she was like, if you think you're gonna get everything through her head, she's always gonna resist you. So, and then
hold on. Sorry. The headmaster was laughing.
Yeah, she was laughing, not at me. She was
Oh,
laughing
okay.
at the comments I'd made because
Right.
she could see that I was daring and I was bold enough to not take it and just respond the way she needed to be responded because she didn't know how to stay in her lane. And at some point, I spoke to the head teacher and I told her she needs to stay in her lane.
Absolutely. So where is it? Are you still at the organisation?
No, I left.
You left, right? Where is your grievance and your? Did you go to tribunal? Where is it in the process now?
Well, I didn't go because that's the thing. You see how the system is being controlled. I think that this academy has a lot of links and connections with unions. So when I asked my union to actually help me with my grievance, they said that they did not. They were not able to come and sit the grievance with me. And I was like, well, that's not the way it should be. You should be able to come and assist me in this matter. Eventually, I went through the grievance meeting. And by then, I'd literally accused her of discrimination towards me. I sent another letter to the head office, and within 3 days, they organized that meeting. And the next day, I gave my resignation letter.
Wow. And did they uphold your grievance?
Sorry?
Or did they uphold it? Did they agree that you were justified in your grievance?
No. What they've done is that I had my grievance meeting on a Thursday. On a Friday, I resigned. And the following week, they literally said to me that they found that the accountant and the other staff member were in their right to act and say certain things, and that because I was leaving, there was no reason to investigate further. I mean, they just dropped it basically. But all I know is that a lot of things have changed. A lot of pressure has been put on the staff that remain there, because things were too dysfunctional to say, okay, we can't just act on that.
How long ago was this? How long ago was this?
Recently?
It was last year. I left in June last year.
Right. I mean, obviously, you know, you've moved on from that, and I hope that you're in a much happier and better place. But whether you know or not, the fact that you felt that you had to leave can be considered as constructive dismissal. And so if you have the energy and the fight, and we always seem to be fighting, this is the problem, we're always fighting. But if you have the fight and the energy, you can revisit that, because you felt that you had no choice but to leave. That is constructive dismissal. And really, even though you left, I'm not an HR expert, but even though you left, I believe that they should have still carried your grievance forward and investigated it to conclusion, and they didn't do that. So I commend you for doing what you did, but with all that effort that you put in, you know, if you feel like you've got the energy, I would say maybe, you know, don't just turn your back on it, because by the sound, you were doing a great job. You were putting in 50 hours. You described certain things that I've been through. Working much more than you require, less staff. It's happened to me in 2 roles in particular. Less staff. You're crying out for staff, but you can't get the staff. But you're expected to do all the donkey work, all the what I would call all the plantation work. You're expected to break your back and be grateful for breaking your back. So, you know, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And thank you for being so honest with us. Somebody said that they should have investigated your grievance. Someone said they can't do that. So Karen said they can't do that. As long as you submitted it while employed, they have to investigate it.
But I think it just depends on some of these union representations. They're not, because they're all kind of like tied up together as well. So not all the time, they're supposed to still continue your case and everything, but for some bizarre reason, they just don't.
Yeah, but whether they do or not, we have got to know what our rights are. And if you know what your rights are, then you're well within your rights to make sure that they hold them to account. Because sometimes they're hoping, after your 180-page document, they were hoping that you'd give up, you'd be tired. And I'm sure you are tired. That's what they're hoping for. You know, they hope that they beat you down so much that you just kind of just give up and give in. And
that's what happens to the majority of us, because even like with one of my girlfriends, she's going through a similar case as yourself, and it's just like she's literally banging her head to a brick wall. Do you know what I mean? And that's why, like I said, she's being signed off work, stress, etc., because she just doesn't feel like she's getting anywhere when it comes to the union representing her and everything else. She's got her case, she got her evidence, and it's just been an absolute nightmare for her.
But the union can be like anything. The union, it depends who you get. It's like a counsellor. The counselling is only going to work if you get a good counsellor. So the union's only going to work if you get a good union representative. And a lot of the time, I mean, I've worked very closely with unions in previous roles. And a lot of the time, the union representatives are about their ego more than you as the employee actually in it for the passion and desire to serve you. And don't get me wrong, anybody who's watching who's part of the union now, I'm not you know, painting everybody in that way, but this is just from my own experience. And of course, there are good union reps out there. But I guess what I'm saying is that if you are in the right and you know you're in the right and you know you have rights and they should have investigated your case and they haven't done, and you felt that you had no option but to leave, in my opinion, your case is unfinished. It's unfinished, you know.
Because they still provided a letter that said that because they interviewed the accountant. I don't know if they've interviewed one of our staff, but in their letter that they sent me, they said to me that they concluded that the accountant was doing the right thing, but she had to review my performance, etc., etc., and that because I left, this is clearly written on the letter, that because I left, they just had to close the grievance. Basically, they weren't going to take it further, and I understand what you're saying, because I've been told and I've been advised by friends, etc., who said, "Oh well, you should have carried on, you should have gone further with it." But the thing is that if you think about it, it's so self-damaging. You know,
you're right.
You've been going through that. When I went through that, I went through that for like 9 months or 10 months, and that was intense. That was very intense because the job was already very demanding. So when I left, I felt relieved, but at the same time, I was still like a machine, you know. Every 2 minutes, I need to do something. Every 2 minutes, I need to look at, you know what I mean? And you still got all the anger. And the anger, you can't really get rid of it. In fact, when starting another job, I started another job, well, at the time in June last year, but in December, I went for a part-time job, a similar job, and I was a bit anxious. I was like, who's working there? Who's going to be the line manager? Is she going to be fair, etc., etc.? And I'm lucky. The line manager I've got now, I work for an agency, so she probably knows our boundary a bit better, but I think she's also fair. She's been wonderful with me. But if I had stayed there and if I was still looking at documents and being in touch with union that didn't want to help me, I don't know who I would be today. And you have to think, you know, it's not just you, it's you in the future, and it's your surrounding. If you've got children, etc., etc., it's not, you're gonna damage more people around you. So I wish the one thing I wish they'd done is that they'd sacked me. If they had sacked me, I think I would have had much more anger to go straight to the tribunal and say, okay, now I'm gonna finish them off. But because it didn't go that far, I just thought, well, you know what? Sometimes you need to be able to walk away from things, and I've been relieved overall. But if somebody has the strength to actually fight it, and even if they can claim constructive dismissal, well, let's go for it. But at the time, I just couldn't.
I understand that. I totally understand that. It can be really exhausting, and we're continually having to fight, and it is. I mean, I've taken a grievance out. I've taken a sexual harassment grievance out, and that took everything out of me. And in the end, I left the organisation, and for reasons of racism as well, I left the organisation. Thankfully, the person who I took the grievance out against was sacked, but the whole organisation, I was the one in the wrong. They turned against me. So I know how demoralizing and draining it can be. How are you now? How do you feel now? You're in a new job. How are you now?
Well, I feel much better. I work part-time, and the job is not as demanding. And unlike that particular school where I used to work, we are a team of 3, and me doing my part-time, so it's 4 people. And it's just to say that sometimes, you know, we should be willing to do more research, but at the same time I feel like I want to go back to studying and do something completely different, because I didn't know what it was like to work for a school before. And although I've learned a lot, and it hasn't been all bad overall. I've worked for that school last year 2.5 years, so it wasn't all bad. But I feel much better now. I've got time to think. I work for close from home. Where I was working before, it was an hour and a bit by car, and to come back, so 2 hours per day. So at the moment, I'm happy. I'm in a better place, I would say.
Good.
Yeah, I'm in a better place.
We're so happy to hear that. Thank you so much, Françoise, for coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
And for your continued support. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I carry on. I'll still be behind my screen.
Oh, bless you.
Bye.
Bonne soirée. Merci.
Soirée. Bye.
Bye.
And that's the thing, it does start to exhaust you, end up giving up, you know. But I'm glad she's in a better place now.
Me too.
You know,
me too. I'm really glad she's in a better place, because nobody deserves to go through that.
But we go through it all the time. This is the thing. There's so many stories out there, you know. If we were to all just come and just write those stories, the book would just never ever end, you know, because it's just become our lives. Which is just,
it's ridiculous, isn't it? Like,
it's so sad.
You know, there's so much more in life than us having to fight and fight and fight, you know, but we do have to go through it. I mean, we're probably going to wrap up now, but I think it's where we got loads of comments just now, and more comments than questions. So I just want to kind of run through some of them before we do wrap up, and just to touch on them. So let's just have a look. So someone said, please see a doctor before raising a grievance, because it can be that damaging to your mental health, especially if everything is against you. You know, somebody else said, we're told we're aggressive and have an aggressive tone in order to victimize us, or to I think it's more about weaponizing us. We make a complaint and they use that against us. That happens so many times, and it just inspires more and more anger in you, because you're like, I'm not the one in the wrong, and then, you know, all eyes and all attack is on you. Someone said they were suspended for 9 months for an anonymous allegation which was created by the HR manager to distract from the grievance against her. Fabricated allegation. Suspended for 9 months. Subject to access revealed hidden conversations. Madness. You know, it's just crazy. I think just to kind of reiterate all of these stories, and we've just had a small sample on tonight, but how rife this stuff is that's going on. Someone says the WhatsApp conversations where the HR manager and the area manager, so they're talking a bit more about their personal experience. Let's see. We should keep a diary. I think there's some important things that come out of this. So we're all about solutions. If you are going through certain things, you should keep a diary. Log it. Yeah. Calling stuff out. Yeah. Definitely speaking to either HR person or somebody within an organization that you can trust. And somebody also mentioned about going to see a doctor. I think that's so imperative, especially when you're dealing with stress, when you're being targeted within the workplace. You definitely should go and see your doctor as well, because then that's a level of you recording what's actually going on within the workplace. So rather than just calling in sick, go see your GP, explain to your GP what's going on. I mean, I've done that. You know, I did that. In a recent experience, I had to do that because the stress of the role was too much, and the stress of the role was I was in the role, and I just didn't have the resources that I needed. And it's funny that she was talking about finances and how she felt that the organisation was mismanaging finances, and I can identify with that because in one of my professional experiences, I was brought into an organisation and I could clearly see that there was some financial mismanagement and misreporting going on. And myself and a colleague actually realised this, and we were not going to accept this, and we weren't going to have it. But by raising it, it was almost like we were in the wrong for raising it, and we weren't recognised as doing the right thing. And actually doing having integrity and doing the right thing. And the thing is, if we didn't, and that was exposed, we as the black people, they'll be like, well, you knew this was going on and you didn't say anything. So you almost feel like you can't win.
You can't win anyway, because it's like, if you do the right thing, you're going to be pulled up about it. They're going to turn on you. When you don't do the right thing, then you're the one that's going to be held account for that wrong thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, what do you do?
Someone said that it's been so emotional that they've actually been in tears in work, and that one of their white colleagues actually really supported them. So, and we know that there are people, we do have allies out there, but I think that we need more of those people who are willing to unpick their own understanding of what we go through and really support us, really stand shoulder to shoulder with us. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the workplace, it could be outside of the workplace as well.
I mean, I've had situations, and I'm really grateful. I'm grateful to my friend Gemma, who's always watching the show as well, and she's really just supported me from day dot with all of like my challenges that I've experienced within the workplace as well. So it is about calling it out as well in those meetings and things like that, because sometimes you're even in a meeting, you don't even want to say nothing because you know what they're going to think, what they're going to say. It's not that you're making up a story, because you've experienced it already. So it's just like, why am I going to put myself in a situation again, over and over and over again? And when you go through different working organization, you then come with that whole baggage as well with you to this next environment, and you're kind of like looking at who's going to be against me, who's going to do this. Do you know what I mean? And it's not even
paranoid.
Yeah, you do become paranoid, and it's not that it's intentional, but because you're carrying that baggage, because this is what you've encountered previously, and all the time when you're having those experiences, it just
it wears you down. But you bring that baggage with you as well, which is sad. It's very hard to shed that baggage, and we do need to kind of go on the journey of being able to shed that baggage. But the only way we can do that is if the whole process of adding to that baggage stops, and we need to, and it's not going to happen overnight. Like Michelle said, we need to be patient. There's a couple more comments in here that I want to point out. Karen said to have a mentor. I think that's really important, having a mentor. Having somebody, doesn't necessarily need to be in your organisation, but somebody that you can go to that you trust, that can give you some really sound and wise advice, taking the emotion out of it. Somebody else said it's important to, Francois says it's important to include self-care. Self-care is so important. I had to encourage a colleague of mine today who's going through an awful time. You need to take care of yourself. You need to take some time off. You cannot let this destroy you. You cannot let this wear you down. Absolutely. So self-care is so important.
And just seeing what you just said, Bear, thanks for watching as well. Write emails instead of just talking, because it provides a documented trail. So I think that's similar to what Frank Lamb, sorry. If I pronounce it incorrectly, sis, I do apologize. But in terms of her writing those 180 pages, that's definitely, it helps to support your case.
Definitely does. You do need to build up that body of evidence, and sometimes it's laborious, but you've got to do it, because you won't be able to get anywhere unless you write it. Somebody else said HR is to protect the company, and you can't really trust them. That is an absolute fact. And not diminishing anybody who works within HR, but HR is there really to represent the company. They're not there to represent the employee. And once people understand that, then you may understand why you come up against challenges within HR. So yeah,
it's just like the police. The police is not really there for the people; it's for the state. Do you know what I mean? They're not really there to protect us. They're really just there to protect the state. That's it.
Let's see what other comments we just people's experiences: sleepless nights, anxiety, night sweats, headaches because of stuff that they've been through. You know, Frank Lambs has said that she's actually hopeful that new policies will be implemented on the back of this for workers in regards to racial discrimination. So are we, and I've been a part of a number of those conversations, and I've insisted that I'm part of those conversations because I'm tired. I've experienced certain things myself, and I'm tired of just experiencing it and saying this is how it is. What can I do to make a difference when I can be at that table, you know? And Mr. Maurice said, oh, it's sad that for people about the police for the state. But it's sad.
That's true. It's the truth.
You know. Yeah, it's been an interesting and insightful evening. Yeah, definitely. Tracy said in 2016 she had a situation at work in a room full of people, and a high-level manager grabbed hold of her hair.
What?
Then said he could because of his white privilege, and obviously no one heard. I am shocked by that. I mean, I'm shocked.
But you see now with that, what you're saying, Tracy, now if we were to respond in a certain way, because obviously he's doing this undercover, quietly, if you was to respond and get a chair and lick in his headpiece, you would end up getting arrested. No, but you understand what I'm saying? And this is
first of all, sacked, summary dismissal, done, gone, out the door.
Instantly. But do you understand what I'm saying? It's these little things that people do and they get away with it. They've been getting away with it, but enough is enough. That day is done.
Days are numbered.
It's over.
They're numbered.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. And with that,
it's a wrap
for us too. Thank you all so much for watching. We will be back again on Sunday. On Sunday, we will be talking about trauma and healing, because obviously we need to heal in order to feel optimistic to move forward.
Absolutely.
And you've got a couple of people in mind who we'll confirm the guests. Yes, but we've got a few people in mind who can really bring that conversation to the table.
So stay in the loop with us. Stay tuned.
For some reason, we've gone black on this screen, so I don't know if you can still see us. If you can't and you can hear us, we are going to say good night.
Good night.
So
thank you for watching.
Thank you so much, guys. Until Sunday, we'll see you then.
Bye for now.
Bye bye.